Hello everybody, this is our second lesson for Year 7s on weather and climate. You'll recall that last lesson you did about the difference between weather and climate and the different ways in which weather and aspects of weather can be measured and collected. Now today's lesson actually focuses on clouds, and clouds of course is something that we've spent our whole lives seeing and often dreading in terms of looking up to the heavens and wondering whether it's going to rain. And this means that you'll be in a position beyond this lesson, hopefully, where you don't necessarily just look up at the sky anymore and say there's a cloud. You'll be able to pick out all the different types of clouds that exist. So you'll notice on this particular diagram on the middle of the page here, how as you go higher up in altitude, that's what we call it, as you go higher up in altitude, the different types of clouds that exist differ. And if we go up to around about 6 miles above our heads, 10 kilometers up, you can see how the different types of clouds are obviously variable. Now these thin wispy clouds that are often very high up in the sky, high and white, are called cirrus clouds, and the reason that they're sort of thin and wispy in this way, they're made out of ice crystals because it's so high up, it's so cold. They're fast moving and they look wispy. Ones lower down, and you'll notice the rain that is associated with these, are called nimbus clouds. And these nimbus clouds are large, grey-black, and carry huge volumes of rain. Now, all these words on here are Latin. Right, so cirrus means thin and wispy, or thin in Latin. Equally, the word nimbo. You might, if you've ever seen Harry Potter, will know that his broomstick is called the Nimbus 2000. Which sounds great until you realise that the word nimbo or nimbus refers to rain. It doesn't quite sound so catchy when you call it the Rain 2000. But you'll notice how these words occur frequently. Stratus, meaning layer in Latin, where you've got layers of clouds. And cumulo means heap. Okay, so other clouds at the bottom here, the cumulus clouds that you can see on there, are fluffy clouds formed when warm air rises quickly. So when the ground heats the air quickly on a hot day, or mountains force air to rise, they can give these short, heavy showers. But on a very hot day, they can grow into tall, dark thunderclouds called cumulonimbus clouds. These great, massive clouds here, which are going to soak you if these clouds burst. You may have wondered before as well, why is it that actually some of the clouds are a darker colour, and why it is that we know that the darker coloured clouds are associated with rain? Well, what it is, when you can actually see the dark clouds on there, what you're actually seeing is the shadow of the rain droplets. And there's so many rain droplets on there that it casts a bigger shadow within these big storm clouds. Stratus clouds, as I mentioned before, you can see where I'm pointing with the mouse pointer, are blankets of dull cloud, and they form when the warm air rises more slowly over a wider area. And this often brings a horrible drizzly day where you're thinking, will it ever stop raining? And never pouring, but that sort of miserable day. Whereas your cumulonimbus clouds, these ones, might give a heavy rain shower, but then actually the day might turn out fairly fine beyond that point. Now, thank goodness for clouds. You might not think so, but if we didn't have clouds, we didn't have rain, and if we didn't have rain, then there'd be none of us on the planet. And this idea of clouds everywhere, the best way to understand what clouds are like is to actually see them, not just outside of your window, but on the video clip shown below. So what I would ask you to do, if you could, on Show My Homework, this web link is actually on there as well, save you having to type this into your browser. If you can click on that, and I want you to, the first task is to watch the video to learn about the different cloud types. Okay, now having seen that video, hopefully it will give you a better impression of the different types of clouds that exist. Your job now is to write this as your title. So the red words up on the screen here, cloud and cloud cover, are your title. If you could put today's date as well, please, within the margin, and if you could underline both. Now, when you have done that, what I would like you to do, please, is I want you to read through this paragraph, and then you are actually going to write this paragraph in your exercise books, and you're going to use the words above: stratus, rain, heap, highest, wispy, thunder, octas. Now think about what an octagon shows. Right, that's an 8-sided shape, and we use octas to actually work out what percentage of the sky is covered in cloud and what proportion. and then the word nimbus at the end, which we mentioned before. So you're going to use those words within your gap fill to ensure that you've got a full paragraph all about cloud and cloud cover. That I would imagine will take you around about 10 minutes to complete. Now, the great thing about the weather topic that we're doing at the minute is that it's relatable. Now, what I mean by that is everybody experiences it. Everybody experiences weather on a day-to-day basis, and it has such an effect on everything that we do. And it's very visual. So you'll notice on here, there's a diagram that I would like you to sketch. Please make sure you do your sketches in pencil and any labels in pen. And what we would like you to do is to use the previous slides, either by rewinding the video clip, or equally there is a PDF of this that you can open as well. And I want you to use that information to label which cloud is which. Okay, so if you do this underneath where you did your writing before in your exercise book as task 3. Now, there's a lot of key words that we've covered today, and it'd be very easy to skim over that, to move on to the next lesson without really trying to consolidate that information and to ensure that you understand it and know it. So task 4, the final thing we'd like you to do really in this lesson in terms of writing, is I would like you to write and create 10 multiple choice questions on the topic of clouds. Each question must have at least 2 answers for people to choose from. So 1 correct and 1 incorrect. So an example is given at the bottom, which is number 1, the whitest clouds are, and you had 2 options there, which are cirrus and nimbus. So go back over the information you've learnt today. Some of them could be about the heights of different clouds. Some of them could be about the conditions that lead to those types of clouds forming. You've got to come up with 10 multiple choice questions. Okay, now having done all that information, you should have some detailed notes in your books. There is no need to take pictures of this and send this information to me with it being more notes based from today's lesson. There is one final thing I want you to do, and this doesn't involve you doing anything behind your computer. What I would say is maybe if you're going for a walk or a family walk together with your family at some point today or tomorrow, if you could write down the list of the different types of clouds that exist. And I would like you, just with a piece of paper, having written those things down, to do a bit of a tick list of the clouds that you think you might have spotted as you go out and about. The best way to learn any geography is to live and breathe it. And if you're out there and you're actually seeing those clouds for yourself, it's far more likely this information will soak in. Okay, so thanks for listening to this. Hopefully you've got some detailed notes in your book, and keep up the great work.